I've been showing this signal thing for a while. And, in various movies. And I was thinking about the thing that got me so hooked on it. So you see, the signal comes, just at odd times. Like I just might be having a thought, and I'm not really looking for a signal, but it'll come. And because that's God communicating with me, and it makes it easier for Him to reach me if I know what to look for. Top of the day to you. Pretty nice day today. And the very first time that I knew I did this, and what it was that I knew I did, was I knew that I had just known something that could not be known with the five senses. It was beyond my five senses. And it was something about another guy's father who died right around the time when he was born. And it was something only his mother, who had already passed on, could have known. And we were not using this method to get a signal. We were doing muscle testing. But doing this muscle testing was like we fell down the rabbit hole. And later, I discovered that the rabbit hole is easier to access if you don't muscle test. Because muscle testing can be very tiring on the muscles. So I don't muscle test anymore. And I get a lot more signals because they come a lot faster this way. And see, that's the whole thing, is that anyway, but the thing that I realized at that moment, when I discovered that bit of private information about his family, which I'm not going to go into, is that this is priceless. I had been given a priceless gift, and I realized that it wasn't me that gave it to myself, or my friend Peter, who was doing the testing with me, who gave it to me, or any being, on earth. It was God. God had just sort of put me in touch with something I already had, and given me a dependable way to exercise it and use it whenever I want it. But more than that, one reason it was priceless is because it was the solution to all the world's problems. Everybody's always comes along, people keep coming along with the solution to all the world's problems. They've been doing it for years, And some of them are still famous and they still have followers, and others were known crackpots right from the beginning, and nobody ever paid any attention to them at all, and we've never heard of them. But they exist, or existed, and, all this time, it has come to pass this way. From the Delphic Oracle and way before, the people who had the solution to the world's problems, because they had deep insight, or they had something like, Jonas Salk with penicillin. Could be anything, medical breakthrough. But usually it turned out to be the solution to only some of the problems. And frankly, there's a lot of problems that I have not been able to solve with this. But maybe I shouldn't say that, because maybe I'm just not good enough with it, You got to get really good with it to do just about anything. And most people do not have the patience to get good with anything. And if they're going to get good with something, they're going to try to get good with something that everybody believes it's wonderful to get good at. Like, there'll be an Olympic trampoline bouncer or whatever. But if it comes to something where nobody is going to care how great you are with it, or maybe some people will, but that might take a while too, then for the average person, they're not really interested. It doesn't matter. See, and the thing about this, it took me a long time to realize it, but when I say this is priceless, what it implied, I didn't realize it when I first discovered it, is that no one who I've ever encountered is really willing to pay anything for it. They just, and I mean, I've had people tell me point blank, like, this has got to be free, and they were right. The thing is, personally, I'm not that interested in starving while I stand on a street corner and giving it away for free. So I am a stock trader. That's how I make money. So I don't have to then I can just do as much or as little as I want. And that's how churches work. All churches are like that, that for most people, they don't be a minister, they join a church and they hire a minister because, obviously it needs somebody full time to be there for people in their time of need. And also, obviously, they don't have time to do that, but they're willing to contribute some money, So that's the role that I chose for myself. I decided, well, I'll just contribute some money. That'll be enough. God will appreciate it. I don't know whether God appreciates it or anything, but I did not have the wherewithal to rent a space and be there in it and manage a church and so on. And so I just decided I didn't want to do that. And, there were times when I tried to get other people to do it, but they weren't that interested in it either, to tell you that. I mean, they were interested in having the benefits of it, but not necessarily like managing a church all day. Though we started a church, and we did a church that was the right kind of church for us, which has something that has no full-time minister. And Greg has kind of thrown himself into, answering people when they write in and say their password doesn't work or something. He sends them a new, password, or reminds him that their password is their name. That's how he sets passwords up, as people's names first and last is the username and passwords. So you can't go wrong, but they do. So they don't. It's not exactly that they forget their name; they just forget that it's their password. You can't make this stuff up. It's just. That's why I don't need a writer. I have an interesting life, So, anyway, for example, I have cured several medically incurable diseases. And I used this, and before I had this, I was a really intuitive and health conscious guy, you know? And when I got the flu, I knew how to handle it. I put a Band-Aid on it. In my case, the Band-Aid was I lived on pineapple juice and raw carrots. And I still felt like I was in a bubble, but I didn't have a lot of the misery that people go through when they have the flu. Like I would keep myself cleaned out, and after, the flu passes in a few days. So I would just suffer a little bit instead of a lot, as most people do. Now the flu has become really awful. I mean, people are going to the hospital with the flu. But see, I have not had a flu since 1993. And in the pre-1993 era, people, when they got the flu, they didn't go to the hospital. They just stayed home and they were okay after a few days. It wasn't a bad thing. But now people are spending like a week, 2 weeks in the hospital. Some people are dying. People always died from the flu, but it's different. The flu mutated. But I wasn't part of that. I stopped getting the flu when I started doing this, because I started this in 1993. And want to know how I immunized myself to the flu? I don't know. It was a complete byproduct of doing this. I never directly addressed it. But when I started doing this, that was my last flu. We have a cure show. We haven't done one in a long time, but we have them up on the web. We have a lot of them re-recorded, and they're up on the web. And there was a short period, about a month or two, where we did a flu cure show in flu season, where we found people with the flu and invited them to call in, and then we recorded them curing the flu. So we taught them directly how to cure the flu. And it took them about 20 minutes. And what you see, the way I'll tell you what, maybe I should tell you about how I cured my herpes. I had herpes. I got herpes in, 1965, when I was living in a hotel on South Beach that no longer exists. It was a dive. It was probably about 70 years old. Gorgeous lobby, but totally decrepit. You could see the grandeur that once was, And I felt like I was in Havana when I walked into that place. It was built around a courtyard, and I loved it. It was called the Biscayne Collins Hotel. And my room was like a cardboard box, which shared a bathroom with the room next door. And it was a girl I picked up on the beach, and she was a nurse. And I got herpes from a nurse. So all those many years I had herpes. I would get maybe around 4 outbreaks a year. And I was having a herpes outbreak, and this is after I started doing this. This was about 2 or 3 months after I started doing this. I got my next outbreak. And so I asked a question. And see, that is the thing that is priceless about this, that you can ask a question and God will answer you, or an angel, or whatever power that be, I mean, there are Christians who say this is the work of the devil. We're accessing the devil who's telling us stuff. I don't think the devil heals people. Don't see too much in the Bible about the devil coming forth and healing the sick. It's mostly Jesus who does that. So I'm not so convinced that it's the devil who's healing people or curing people. And so I asked, can I kill this virus? Now you can't kill a virus, they're not alive. But I got a signal, yes. Because I wasn't really asking if I could kill the virus. I wanted to get rid of the herpes, you know. It wasn't something to be taken so literally. And so I did it. I said, okay, I'm now killing this virus. And the confirmation was that first I got a signal. And then I felt suddenly different. I felt calm and peaceful, relaxed, okay, happy. And I wasn't happy because I had a serious herpes outbreak. It was very painful. And then later, I felt like the whole physical pain of it started to disappear. The pustules were still there. You know, they didn't dry up right away. And so I went to the guest house and I took a nap. And when I woke up, it was back. I had herpes all over again. But see, a lesser person would have just said, "Oh well, that thing doesn't work," you know, and that's it. That would have been the last time they ever tried to get a signal from God, you know. They would have just disassociated themselves from God. But I didn't do that. Instead, I just asked, "Do I have herpes again?" And I got a signal. Can I kill it? Yes. And I went through the whole thing again and felt better again. And every time I went to sleep, I got the herpes back. And every time I woke up, I cured it and the pustules disappeared. Because when the pain went, see, the pustules were drying up every time I did that. And so after a while, that was the end of that. And that was the last herpes outbreak I ever got in my life. That first one that I cured, and I stuck with it. I kept at it. It took me days. Well, I mean, the herpes was gone like the next morning, the physical symptoms, but I still got it again. I had no physical symptoms that were very, I mean, it sort of was still red, you know, but it had completely dried up. But then my test was I had it. And I felt that kind of bad, emotional, kind of keyed up feeling. And that was, then I took it out again. And then I felt that calm, peaceful feeling. And that's really what I got addicted to, you know? That was another thing. I just always thought that was priceless, you know, being tranquil. Look at all the people who do transcendental meditation and other kinds of meditation because they want that peaceful feeling, or they don't want it, but their doctor told them to do it. They said, meditate, you need to calm down because you're going to have another heart attack. So they start meditating, you know. Some people have to hit bottom, you know what I mean? Anyway, so this is priceless. And I think I'll do some more movies about that theme, by the way. I think that this is a good thing to talk about, the pricelessness.